Welcome to Streaming News Network, where we deliver balanced reporting with the facts that matter. The Evening Edition by Claude McDaniel. Please like and subscribe.
This is Claude McDaniel with Streaming News Network. An Arkansas state representative has resigned from office following his arrest over allegations of domestic violence involving his wife. Austin McCullum, a Republican candidate for Benton County judge, was arrested after authorities responded to a reported assault at the couple's home. Court records filed by his wife, Reagan McCullum, describe a violent confrontation that allegedly began after the couple returned from a wedding. According to her petition for a protective order, she alleges McCullum threw several objects, prevented her from leaving a bedroom, restrained her, and pressed her face into a mattress, making it difficult to breathe. She further claims he repeatedly struck her, slammed a door on her hand, dragged her by the hair, and continued the assault until she escaped downstairs and called for emergency assistance. Her filing also describes previous alleged incidents of abuse, including claims of choking, pushing her downstairs, and driving a vehicle toward her during an earlier argument while their children were inside. Authorities reported finding McCullum at the home with injuries they said were consistent with a physical altercation. He declined to provide a statement to investigators. He was arrested on suspicion of aggravated assault, false imprisonment, and misdemeanor domestic battery, then released on a $10,000 bond. A protective order has been granted, with additional court hearings scheduled later this month and in September. McCullum announced his resignation from the Arkansas House, stating he intends to focus on his family. As of now, he has not publicly confirmed whether he will remain in the race for Benton County judge. This is Streaming News Network. A new international study is challenging long-held assumptions about where narcissistic personality traits are most common. Researchers analyzed responses from more than 45,000 participants across 53 countries to better understand how culture, age, gender, and economic conditions may influence narcissistic behavior. It is important to note that the study measured narcissistic traits found on a normal personality spectrum, not diagnoses of narcissistic personality disorder. Participants completed a standardized psychological assessment designed to measure traits such as the desire for admiration, competitiveness, and the need to be the center of attention. The findings placed Germany at the top of the rankings, followed by Iraq, China, Nepal, and South Korea. At the opposite end were Serbia, Ireland, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Denmark. The United States ranked 16th overall. Researchers also found that men generally scored higher than women on measures of narcissism, while younger adults consistently displayed stronger narcissistic traits than older adults, regardless of where they lived. Another key finding was that wealthier nations tended to report higher levels of narcissistic traits. However, the study also found unexpectedly high scores in more collectivist cultures, suggesting that cultural values can shape narcissism in different ways rather than simply increasing or decreasing it. The researchers concluded that narcissistic traits appear to be a common part of human personality across cultures, although social expectations, economic conditions, and life experiences may influence how those traits are expressed over time. This is Streaming News Network. A federal judge in Mississippi has ruled that so-called tower dump warrants violate constitutional protections against unreasonable searches, limiting a surveillance method used by law enforcement in criminal investigations. A tower dump occurs when cell phone providers give authorities records showing the time and location information of every mobile device connected to a specific cell tower during a certain period. Investigators had requested these warrants while investigating violent crimes and suspected gang activity in the Jackson, Mississippi area. Officials argued the information could help identify possible suspects when the individuals responsible for crimes were unknown. However, U.S. District Judge Carlton Reeves agreed with a lower court ruling that rejected the requests, stating that collecting information from everyone near a location risks sweeping up the private data of large numbers of innocent people. The judge said the practice amounted to an unreasonable search under the Fourth Amendment, which protects Americans from excessive government intrusion. In his ruling, Reeves referenced recent Supreme Court decisions involving digital tracking and location data, noting that modern technology gives authorities unprecedented access to personal information. The judge acknowledged that digital surveillance can assist law enforcement but warned that these tools also create the possibility of broad government monitoring of individuals' movements. The decision adds to growing legal debates over privacy rights, cell phone tracking, and how constitutional protections apply in an increasingly digital society. This is Streaming News Network. An Indiana educator honored as a rising star in the teaching profession has died alongside her younger brother in a tragic drowning accident in Lake Michigan. Hannah Zweig, a 21-year-old life skills teacher at John Adams High School in South Bend, and her 18-year-old brother Yosef died during a family trip. Officials have not released details about the circumstances surrounding the incident. Zweig had recently been recognized as Rookie Teacher of the Year during the South Bend Community School's annual teacher celebration in April. School officials described her as a dedicated educator who worked tirelessly to help students succeed. Principal James Seitz said Zweig built strong relationships with her students and consistently looked for ways to support their growth and confidence. Before beginning her teaching career, Zweig earned a bachelor's degree and was continuing her education through a master's program focused on special education and teaching. In a message reflecting on her first year in the classroom, Zweig said teaching had challenged her, helped her grow, and showed her that success was measured not only by academics but also by the connections built with students. School leaders remembered her as someone whose compassion extended beyond the classroom, especially in her work with students who had special needs. The South Bend community is mourning the loss of a young teacher described as passionate, caring, and committed to making a difference in the lives of others. This is Streaming News Network. Former CNN journalist Jim Acosta is weighing in on criticism of pandemic-era media coverage, agreeing that some viewers felt there was an environment where questioning COVID policies became difficult. During an interview on his online program with TMZ founder Harvey Levin, the two discussed the public debate surrounding the handling of the COVID-19 pandemic and the role of media organizations during that period. Levin said he believed there was a climate where some people felt criticized for challenging government recommendations or asking questions about pandemic policies. He added that he was not accusing CNN or other outlets of intentionally creating that atmosphere, but said public discussion became less open. Acosta agreed that some aspects of the pandemic response created challenges, particularly for children affected by certain policies. However, he defended the network's approach at the time, saying journalists were attempting to provide reliable information while dealing with widespread uncertainty and misinformation. Acosta said he focused on interviewing scientists and medical professionals to help viewers understand the rapidly changing situation. The discussion also touched on renewed political scrutiny of former health official Dr. Anthony Fauci, including congressional criticism over pandemic decisions and disagreements surrounding the origins of COVID-19. Fauci has denied wrongdoing, and no criminal charges have been filed against him. The conversation reflects the continuing national debate over pandemic policies, media coverage, government decisions, and the balance between public health guidance and open discussion. This is Streaming News Network. A retired police chief found himself responding to a crisis thousands of feet in the air after an airline passenger allegedly became disruptive during a flight from New Jersey to Florida. Former Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara said a routine United Airlines flight became tense after a passenger allegedly became increasingly aggressive following a dispute involving alcohol service. According to O'Hara, flight attendants spent about 45 minutes attempting to calm the passenger before the situation escalated. He said the passenger began shouting, making threats, and moving out of his seat. O'Hara, who was traveling with his wife, stepped in along with two off-duty Bergen County Sheriff's deputies who happened to be on the flight. The three men worked together to restrain the passenger using plastic restraints until the aircraft landed safely in Fort Lauderdale. United Airlines confirmed that law enforcement met the aircraft after arrival to address an unruly passenger. The Boeing 737 aircraft was carrying 174 passengers and 6 crew members. O'Hara praised the flight attendants for their professionalism and said the incident highlighted the dangers of violent behavior in the confined space of an aircraft. The retired police chief, who spent 25 years in law enforcement, said he believes passengers should be prepared to help prevent dangerous situations when possible and that airlines should continue improving training and safety measures. Authorities have not publicly identified the passenger or announced criminal charges. This is Streaming News Network. New allegations are raising questions about the death of New York fashion designer Martha Nolanos-Latera, who was found dead aboard a yacht at an upscale Montauk marina. Nolanos-Latera, 33 years old, was discovered on the yacht named Ripple in August of 2025. Authorities initially investigated the death as a possible drug overdose. However, an attorney representing her family now says a second independent autopsy raised concerns about that explanation. Lawyer Michael Bowe claims medical evidence did not support the conclusion that intoxicants caused her death and says investigators found signs of blood on her body when emergency responders arrived. The attorney also claims law enforcement informed the family that the scene may have been cleaned before authorities reached the yacht. Those allegations have not been proven in court. The family has filed a legal notice indicating plans to pursue a $50 million wrongful death lawsuit against yacht owner Christopher Durnan, alleging that Nolanos Latera's death involved assault and negligence. Durnan has not been charged with any crime and has not publicly responded to the allegations. Nolanos Latera was the founder of a Hamptons-based swimwear company and had a business relationship with Durnan, who had invested in her company. Her family disputes claims that drugs played a role in her death, saying toxicology results showed only trace amounts of cocaine. The case remains under investigation, with authorities continuing to review the circumstances surrounding the designer's death. This is Streaming News Network. Autism care providers and families are speaking out in support of efforts to combat alleged Medicaid fraud while warning that legitimate patients should not lose access to critical services. A national advocacy group representing autism clinicians, behavioral therapists, and families says fraudulent use of Medicaid funds harms taxpayers, damages trust in healthcare programs, and takes resources away from children who need treatment. The group supports the Trump administration's efforts to investigate and prosecute suspected fraud but says enforcement efforts must carefully target those accused of wrongdoing without creating new obstacles for families seeking care. Applied behavior analysis, commonly known as ABA therapy, is a widely used treatment approach designed to help some children with autism develop communication, behavioral, and daily living skills. Advocates say many families depend on consistent access to these services and worry that broad policy changes could unintentionally disrupt care. Parents have shared personal stories about how therapy has helped their children improve communication and independence. Providers also emphasize that the overwhelming majority of clinicians follow ethical standards and should not be punished for the actions of a small number of bad actors. Officials overseeing federal healthcare programs say combating fraud is necessary to protect both patients and the integrity of Medicaid and Medicare. The debate now centers on finding a balance between stopping financial abuse and ensuring children with autism continue receiving the care their families rely on. This is Streaming News Network. Actress and television personality Valerie Bertinelli is taking fans back nearly 5 decades after discovering a collection of rare photographs from her younger years. Bertinelli recently shared images she found while cleaning her home, estimating the photos were taken in 1979 when she was around 19 years old. The photos show the future star in a classic late 1970s style, featuring a fashionable look inspired by the era's trends. Bertinelli told followers she had completely forgotten the pictures existed and asked whether she should save them or throw them away. Fans quickly responded, encouraging her to preserve the images as a piece of personal and entertainment history. Many praised the photos as a nostalgic reminder of the style and culture of that period. At the time the pictures were taken, Bertinelli was already known for her television success and would go on to marry rock musician Eddie Van Halen 2 years later. She later became the mother of musician Wolfgang Van Halen. Bertinelli hinted that the photographs could eventually appear as part of a new family-focused project with her brother, featuring personal memories and stories from her life. For now, fans will have to wait to see whether the newly discovered photos become part of a future episode or remain a private family treasure. I am Claude McDaniel for Streaming News Network. Thank you for watching and staying informed.
Thank you for viewing Streaming News Network videos, and also short and special reports. Please like, subscribe, and tap the bell to be notified of additional reports.